Some mysteries are etched not in stone but in ice. They are frozen in time, waiting for us to find them. This is one such story. It begins in the winter of 1959 in the cold heart of Russia's Ural Mountains, a place of stark, unforgiving beauty. A group of 10 experienced hikers set out on an adventure. They planned to conquer a mountain named Otorten, but something went terribly wrong. Only one would survive, having turned back early due to illness. The other 9 would vanish into the silent, snowy landscape, leaving behind a riddle that has baffled investigators for more than 60 years. A riddle that whispers of unimaginable terror. The group was led by Igor Dyatlov, a skilled and respected outdoorsman. They were all students or graduates from the Ural Polytechnical Institute. They were young, strong, and full of life. They knew the risks of the wilderness. They were prepared for the bitter cold and the treacherous terrain. The journey was meant to be a test of their endurance and spirit, a story they would tell for the rest of their lives. But their story would be told by others. It would become a legend, a chilling tale of their final, desperate moments on a mountain that would later be named after their leader, Dyatlov Pass. Their families expected them back around February 12th. When that day came and went with no word, no one was immediately alarmed. Storms could delay even the most experienced travelers, but as days turned into weeks, a quiet worry grew into a gnawing fear. A search party was finally dispatched on February 20th. They flew over the vast white expanse, scanning for any sign of the missing hikers. For days they found nothing but endless snow and the haunting whistle of the wind. It was as if the mountain itself had swallowed them whole, leaving no trace of their passage. Then, on February 26th, the searchers made a discovery. They found the hikers' abandoned tent on the slopes of Kholat-Syakhl, a mountain whose name in the local Mansi language means dead mountain. The name was a chilling omen for what was to come. The tent was half buried in snow, a lonely and silent beacon in the vast wilderness. It should have been a place of shelter, a refuge from the brutal elements. Instead, it was the first piece of a terrifying puzzle. A puzzle whose pieces would only deepen the mystery and horrify those who tried to solve it. The silence on the mountain was about to be broken by a story of pure dread. The team was a picture of youthful ambition. Led by the 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, they were not just hikers, they were engineers, physicists, and students on the cusp of their futures. The group included talented individuals like Zenaida Kolmogorova, who kept a diary of their journey, and Yuri Yudin, the sole survivor who was forced to turn back due to severe joint pain. The others, Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolovatov, Rustem Slobodin, Georgy Krivonishenko, Yuri Doroshenko, Nicholas Thibault Brignolel, and Semyon Zolotaryov, were all seasoned in the wild. They were a close-knit group, bonded by a shared passion for adventure and the challenges of the great outdoors. Their journey began with the optimism of any great expedition. They traveled by train, then by truck, and finally on skis, pulling sleds laden with their food and equipment. Zenaida's diary entries paint a picture of camaraderie and high spirits. They sang songs, told jokes, and marveled at the stark, frozen beauty surrounding them. They were pushing their limits, but they were doing it together. Their plan was to trek across the northern Urals, a difficult but achievable goal for a group with their level of skill and preparation. They were documenting their journey, taking photographs that showed them smiling, working, and living in the moment. On February 1st, they began their ascent onto the slopes of Kholat-Syakhl. The weather, which had been manageable, began to worsen. A snowstorm descended, reducing visibility and pushing them off their intended course. Instead of finding a sheltered spot in the forest below, they made a critical decision to set up camp on the exposed mountainside. Why they chose this dangerous location remains one of the incident's first enduring questions. Perhaps they were too exhausted to continue, or perhaps Dyatlov, as leader, made a calculated but ultimately fatal error in judgment. It was on this barren, windswept slope that their final night would unfold. The last photo recovered from their camera shows them diligently setting up their camp. The light is fading, the snow is deep, there is a sense of purpose in their actions. They were preparing for the night, expecting to wake up the next morning and continue their journey. They had no idea that they would never see another sunrise. They had no way of knowing that something was waiting for them in the darkness, something that would force them from the relative safety of their tent and into the freezing, unforgiving night to meet a fate that defies simple explanation and continues to haunt our collective imagination. The discovery of the tent was deeply unsettling. It had been sliced open with a knife, but not from the outside, as one might expect from an animal or human attacker. The cuts were made from within. It was a clear sign of panic, suggesting that whatever the hikers faced, it made them so terrified that they chose to slash their way out into the deadly cold rather than use the entrance. Inside, all their belongings, warm clothes, boots, food, and supplies, were left behind. It was an act of pure desperation. The search party stood in stunned silence, trying to comprehend what could have driven 9 experienced hikers to flee their only shelter so violently. Following a set of footprints leading away from the camp, the searchers made their first grim discovery. Down the slope, near the edge of a forest, they found the remains of a small fire. Beside it lay the bodies of Yuri Doroshenko and Georgy Krivonashenko. They were stripped down to their underwear. Their hands were burned and scraped raw, as if they had been trying frantically to climb a tall cedar tree nearby. The scene was bizarre. Why were they nearly naked in temperatures far below freezing? What were they trying to see or escape from by climbing that tree? The questions began to mount, each one more disturbing than the last. 3 more bodies were found between the fire and the tent site, including that of Igor Dyatlov. They seemed to have been trying to return to the camp. They were also inadequately dressed for the brutal conditions. The coroner initially ruled that all 5 had died of hypothermia. It was a tragic but seemingly straightforward explanation. They had gotten lost or disoriented in the storm and frozen to death. But this simple conclusion would be shattered by what the searchers found 2 months later, when the spring thaw revealed the final, horrifying chapter of the story. The worst was yet to come. Buried under more than 10 feet of snow in a ravine, the last 4 hikers were discovered. Their injuries were unlike anything seen before. Nicholas Thibault Brignolel had suffered a massive skull fracture. Lyudmila Dubinina and Semyon Zolotaryov had crushed chests, with injuries so severe they were compared to those sustained in a high-speed car crash. Yet strangely, their bodies showed no external signs of trauma, no soft tissue damage, and most chillingly of all, Lyudmila was missing her tongue and eyes. To add another layer of strangeness, some of their clothing was found to be radioactive. The official cause of death was listed as an unknown compelling force. The most accepted scientific theory is that a slab avalanche was the unknown compelling force. This theory suggests a slab of heavy snow slid down onto the tent, causing the severe internal injuries without leaving external marks. The initial impact would have created panic, forcing the hikers to cut their way out and flee. In their disoriented and injured state, they succumbed to hypothermia. This explanation accounts for some of the evidence, providing a natural cause for the tragedy. It paints a picture of a freak accident, a terrible convergence of bad luck and worse weather on that desolate mountainside. However, the avalanche theory doesn't satisfy everyone. Key details remain unexplained. Experienced hikers like Dyatlov's team would have known not to camp in an avalanche-prone area. The footprints leading from the tent were orderly, not the chaotic scramble one would expect from people fleeing for their lives. And what about the missing tongue and eyes? While scavengers are a possible explanation, the precise and clean nature of the wounds has led many to question it. Then there is the matter of the radiation. Where did it come from? These lingering questions have kept other more sinister theories alive for decades. Another prominent theory points to a secret military weapons test gone wrong. This could explain the radiation, the powerful concussive force that caused the internal injuries, and the subsequent government cover-up of the investigation. Some speculate the hikers accidentally witnessed something they weren't supposed to see, like a parachute mine or a new type of rocket. and were then eliminated or chased into the wilderness to die. Reports from other groups in the area at the time mentioned seeing strange orange spheres or lights in the sky, fueling speculation about UFOs or extraterrestrial involvement, a theory that captures the imagination but lacks concrete evidence. Theories even venture into the realm of the supernatural, whispering of local legends about vengeful mountain spirits or a Russian yeti known as the Menk. While these ideas are easily dismissed by skeptics, they speak to the profound sense of unease the incident creates. The facts are so strange, so disconnected that they seem to defy a rational, earthly explanation. And so the story remains frozen in our minds, just as the hikers were frozen in the snow. 66 years have passed and we are no closer to a definitive answer. What truly happened on Dead Mountain that night, and will the silent peaks of Dyatlov Pass ever give up their chilling secret? Gap 2S. The aftermath of the Dyatlov Pass incident cast a long, cold shadow over the Soviet Union and the world beyond. When the search teams finally reached the remote campsite, they were met with a scene that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The battered tent half buried in snow, the scattered belongings and the silent frozen forms told a story of tragedy, but not of closure. The official investigation, hurried and heavily redacted, left families without answers and fueled a generation of speculation. Grieving relatives struggled to accept the cryptic explanations. The area was swiftly closed off, and the details of the case were locked away in state archives, deepening the air of mystery. In the years that followed, the Dyatlov Pass incident grew into a kind of modern legend. Journalists, researchers, and amateur sleuths returned to the site, hoping to find the missing piece of the puzzle. Each new theory brought a brief flicker of hope, but the truth remained just out of reach. For the families of the 9 hikers, the pain never truly faded. Memorials were erected, and each year, on the anniversary of the tragedy, flowers are left at the foot of the mountain. Survivors of the search teams, now elderly, still speak of the strange feeling that lingered in the air, an unease that, even decades later, refuses to dissipate. The Dyatlov Pass incident endures as a chilling reminder of how the wilderness can keep its secrets, and how even the most determined search for truth can be swallowed by the silence of the mountains. The echoes of that terrible night still ripple through time, leaving us to wonder, will we ever truly know what happened on Dead Mountain? As the world reeled from the tragedy at Dyatlov Pass, Soviet authorities launched an official investigation, one that would prove as enigmatic as the incident itself. Investigators arrived on site, documenting every detail: the oddly slashed tent, the footprints leading into the snow, the scattered personal effects. They measured, photographed, and questioned, but the evidence seemed to raise more questions than it answered. Autopsy reports revealed injuries both ordinary and extraordinary: broken bones, unexplained burns, and traces of radiation. Theories were quietly considered and dismissed: avalanche, animal attack, military involvement, even something supernatural. Each possibility was weighed against the stark facts, yet none could explain the full scope of what was found. Behind closed doors, officials debated how much to reveal. Reports were edited, statements redacted, and soon the case was marked closed, due to a compelling natural force. Families and the public, searching for clarity, found only a wall of silence. Years later, fragments of the original files emerged, hinting at lines of inquiry never publicly acknowledged. Handwritten notes, blurred photographs, and contradictory witness statements painted a picture of chaos and confusion. The deeper investigators looked, the less certain the truth became. To this day, the Dyatlov Pass investigation remains a labyrinth of uncertainty. Every document, every faded photograph is a reminder: some mysteries once locked in state archives are never fully brought to light. As the years passed and the Dyatlov Pass files gathered dust, the world's imagination filled the gaps left by official silence. Theories began to swirl, each one a desperate attempt to explain the inexplicable. Some pointed to the unforgiving force of nature, A slab avalanche, perhaps, or the rare and deadly phenomenon known as infrasound, where winds whipping over the mountain might have triggered panic through low-frequency vibrations. Others fixated on the bizarre injuries, suggesting a secret military test gone wrong, or encounters with experimental weapons. The presence of unexplained radiation on some of the victims' clothing fueled speculation about clandestine activities in the remote Ural wilderness. Then there were those drawn to the supernatural. Whispers of Yetis, UFOs, or ancient curses echoed through late-night conversations and internet forums, each story more outlandish than the last. Some believed the group had stumbled onto something they were never meant to see, something that watched from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. Skeptics argued for simpler explanations: hypothermia, disorientation, the chaos of a desperate escape into the freezing night, yet every theory seemed to answer one question while raising two more. In the end, the true story of what happened on that frozen slope remains as elusive as the wind that howled through the Dyatlov Pass. Theories abound, but the truth is still buried beneath layers of snow, secrecy, and time, waiting for the day when the mountain's silence might finally be broken. Despite the haze of mystery and wild speculation, scientists have continued to probe the Dyatlov Pass incident, determined to shed light on the tragedy using reason and research. Over the decades, advances in technology and forensic science have offered new perspectives on what may have happened that fateful night. One of the most compelling scientific explanations is the slab avalanche theory. In 2021, researchers used computer modeling and field studies to demonstrate how a small, delayed avalanche could have struck the group's tent, enough to cause panic and injury, but leaving few traces behind. The team's findings echoed the injuries found on the hikers, suggesting that the force of compacted snow could explain the broken ribs and skull fractures, while also accounting for the group's frantic flight into the night. Another rational hypothesis points to paradoxical undressing, a phenomenon seen in severe hypothermia cases. As the body succumbs to freezing temperatures, victims may feel overheated and begin to remove their clothing, which could explain why some of the hikers were found partially undressed in the snow. Investigations have also revisited the role of infrasound, powerful low-frequency winds that could trigger feelings of dread or panic, potentially causing the group to abandon their shelter in a state of irrational fear. While none of these scientific explanations can account for every detail, together they offer a plausible narrative, a convergence of natural hazards, human psychology, and the unforgiving environment of the Ural Mountains. The Dyatlov Pass incident may always retain an air of mystery, but science continues to chip away at the unknown, reminding us that even the darkest legends are often rooted in the laws of nature. The Dyatlov Pass incident did not simply fade into the annals of cold case files, it became a legend woven into the fabric of Russian folklore and global curiosity. Over the decades, the story has inspired countless books, documentaries, films, and even songs, each adding a new layer to the mythos surrounding the 9 lost hikers. In Russia, the site itself has become a place of pilgrimage for those drawn to the mystery, with memorials erected in honor of the victims and annual expeditions retracing their final steps. The incident's chilling details have fueled a surge of creative interpretations, from chilling horror movies to investigative podcasts, and even video games set among the windswept peaks of the Urals. Online forums and communities continue to debate every scrap of evidence, keeping the memory of the hikers alive and the questions ever present. For many, the Dyatlov Pass is more than a tragic event. It is a mirror reflecting humanity's fascination with the unknown, our drive to solve the unsolvable, and our deep respect for nature's unpredictable power. The legacy of Dyatlov endures not just in the search for answers, but in the stories we tell, the art we create, and the enduring sense of wonder that the mountain's silence still inspires. In the snowbound wilderness, the echoes of the past continue to call, reminding us that some mysteries are as eternal as the landscape itself. Behind the headlines and the haunting speculation, the Dyatlov Pass tragedy is a than report the facts. It helped shape one of the most enduring mysteries of the modern age. In the shadowy wake of the Dyatlov Pass tragedy, conspiracy theories began to swirl like snow across the Russian wilderness. As the official explanations left more questions than answers, the void was quickly filled by speculation, some outlandish, some disturbingly plausible. Some whispered that the hikers had stumbled upon a secret military experiment, their deaths the result of classified weapons testing gone horribly wrong. Others pointed to the traces of radiation found on the victims' clothing, fueling rumors of nuclear contamination or espionage. Could the group have witnessed something they were never meant to see? There were those who blamed natural phenomena, an ultra-rare weather event, infrasound waves, or even a freak avalanche, while others looked to the supernatural. Tales of the Mansi people's sacred mountain, or of Yeti-like creatures, crept into late-night conversations and underground publications. Still more chilling were the theories of government cover-ups, missing files, altered photographs, and witnesses pressured into silence. Each new revelation, or lack thereof, only deepened suspicions. Decades later, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains fertile ground for conspiracy, with internet forums and documentaries spinning ever more complex webs. In the end, the enduring power of these theories speaks to something elemental, a need to find meaning in the unexplainable and to believe that even in the coldest, most remote places on Earth, the truth will one day come to light. In recent years, the Dyatlov Pass mystery has seen renewed interest, not just from armchair detectives and conspiracy theorists, but from scientists, journalists, and even Russian authorities. In 2019, the Russian government reopened the investigation, aiming to put lingering doubts to rest. This time, the focus was on natural causes, with experts examining weather patterns, avalanche data, and forensic evidence using modern techniques. One of the most significant breakthroughs came from a team of Swiss and Russian researchers, who used advanced computer models to simulate a rare type of slab avalanche. Their findings suggested that this could have explained the injuries and chaos found at the campsite, offering a rational answer to a decades-old riddle. Meanwhile, journalists uncovered previously unseen documents and photographs, shedding new light on the timeline of the rescue and the investigation's early missteps. Yet not everyone is convinced. Survivors' families and some researchers argue that the official explanations still leave gaps, pointing to the unusual radiation levels and the absence of typical avalanche debris. Online communities continue to analyze every detail, from autopsy reports to satellite imagery, keeping the debate alive. As technology advances and more evidence comes to light, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains a living mystery, one that continues to evolve, challenging our understanding of nature, secrecy, and the enduring human quest for answers. The Dyatlov Pass incident is more than just an unsolved mystery. It's become a part of our collective consciousness. Decades after the tragedy, the story continues to inspire books, documentaries, films, and even video games. For many, it stands as a symbol of the unknown, a reminder of nature's unpredictable power and the limits of human understanding. In Russia, the pass itself has become a place of pilgrimage. Hikers, adventurers, and the simply curious retrace the doomed group's path, leaving memorials and sharing stories around campfires. For the families of the victims, the legacy is deeply personal, marked by grief, unanswered questions, and a determination to keep their loved ones' memories alive. Worldwide, the Dyatlov Pass incident has sparked an enduring fascination with mysteries and the unexplained. It challenges us to look beyond easy answers, to question official narratives, and to honor the resilience of those who seek the truth, no matter how cold or remote the trail may be. As the snow continues to fall on the slopes of Kholat-Syakhl, the footprints of 9 young hikers have not faded from history. Their story endures, etched into the landscape, and into the hearts of all who are drawn to the mountain's silence and secrets.